We come now to one of the really great spiritual disciplines, simplicity, simplicitate. The great freeing life, the inward reality of focus upon the kingdom of God that brings us into a lifestyle that is free from what William Penn called cumber. In my book, Freedom of Simplicity, I write, within all of us, there is a whole conglomerate of selves. There is the timid self, the courageous self, the business self, the parental self, the religious self, the literary self, the energetic self. And all these selves are rugged individualists. No bargaining or compromise for them. Each one screams to protect his or her vested interests. If a decision is made to spend a relaxed evening listening to music, the business self and the civic self rise up in protest at the loss of precious time. The energetic self paces back and forth, impatient and frustrated, and the religious self reminds us of all the lost opportunities for study or evangelistic endeavor. If the decision is to accept an appointment on the Human Services Board, the civic self smiles with satisfaction, but all the excluded selves filibuster. No wonder we feel distracted and torn. No wonder we overcommit our schedules and live lives of frantic faithfulness. But when we experience life at the center, all is changed. Our many selves come under the unifying control of the divine arbitrator. No longer are we forced to live by an inner majority rule, which always leaves a disgruntled minority. The divine yes or no settles all minority reports. Everything becomes oriented to this new center of reference. The quiet evening can be enjoyed to the fullest because our many selves have been stilled by the holy within. The business self, the religious self, the energetic self, all are at peace because they know that we are living in obedience. There is no need to wave the flag of self-interest, since all things good and needful will be given their proper attention at the appropriate time. We enter into a refreshing balance and equilibrium of life. And you know, that is the great reality of simplicity, that balance and equilibrium in life. You know, Glandy and Margaret, we all struggle in a hectic pace and hectic world, and how to move into that kind of balance, how to have that divine arbitrator is tough. Have you experienced that in your lives?
I think I've experienced it from the standpoint that I've complicated my life and have made it sometimes a battle.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think of life as something that requires a great deal of tenacity and energy and focus. And sometimes I miss it. And I come to the realization that something simple like a hot cup of chocolate in the evening with my children, or a walk on the beach, or patting my dog can be a real wonderful way to enjoy the grace of God.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's recovering the grace of time, the grace of giftedness from God, the grace of relationships, and being committed to that grace.
Yeah. That's what Sheldon Van Auken calls the timeful life. It's a great good, isn't it?
Wonderful.
Margaret, you had mentioned Thomas Kelly as one of your favorite authors. He wrote a lot about this kind of living, didn't he?
Yes, he did. You have to make consciously chosen actions, to choose to slow down, to choose not to hurry, to choose this kind of life. And it comes from the inward reality.
Right. And trust, you see, is at the heart of that inward reality of simplicity. if what I have I can receive as a gift, and if what I have I know is not mine to hold on to, and if what I have can be available to others when it's clearly right and good, then I'm living in that inward life of simplicity. But if what I have I think I've gotten, and if what I have I think is mine to hold on to, and if what I have cannot be available to others when it's clearly right and good, then I'm living in duplicity. This idea of trust really came home to me with our children when they were very young. Our boys loved to eat pancakes, and every now and then on a Saturday morning I'd get up early and fix them a batch of pancakes. And it was always interesting to watch them wolf down pancakes. I mean, it was like there was an endless supply. I never saw them once stuffing pancakes into their pockets, saying, well, I'm not sure about Dad. I don't know if there'll be any pancakes tomorrow, you see. They weren't worried about the price of eggs or milk or anything. They lived in trust. Now, it may well be a misplaced trust, but that's how they lived. I had an experience when I was living in the Pacific Northwest that reminded me so much of this trust-filled living. There was a lady in the southern part of the state that would come up to the northern part because she wanted to learn a little bit about listening prayer. But she was a social worker, and she would invite me to come down to her city to do a teaching on healing prayer. Now, she did not mean physical healing. That actually would have frightened her. She meant emotional healing. And I would say, oh, Helen, there's plenty of people in your city that, can do this. You don't need me. And, but, she was like the woman before the unjust judge, She just kept at it. And so finally I said to her, Helen, look, let's take the idea of my coming to your city as a little project in prayer itself. You go home, don't share anything with anybody. Let's just pray about it. And if in 3 or 4 days or a week or so, 3 or 4 people ask for this kind of experience, we'll know that God is in it and I'll come. She said, okay. 3 days later, she calls me. 12 people have asked for this experience. I said, okay. Down we came. They were all social workers, about 15, I think, finally gathered in a home. So it was an extended connections that she had. And that first evening, there was a very distinguished middle-aged gentleman. And he said to the group, be easy on me because I'm not one of you. That was his way of saying that he didn't consider himself a believer. But God was so tender on us for that weekend that by Sunday afternoon, this man turned to the group and he said, could you pray for me that I might know Jesus the way you know Jesus? And I knew it was a tender moment. But all the normal responses didn't feel appropriate to me. Thankfully, by that time, when I didn't know what to do, I just shut up. And one dear fella in that group came up beside this man, and he prayed for this man. Oh, it was a tender prayer. I felt like taking off my shoes. I thought, this is holy ground. But what he prayed was a television commercial.